Biden as well giving his first reaction just moments ago. So this is Justin. Listen to what the President of the United States currently had to say.
Mr. President, your reaction to the Colorado ruling on Trump at the ballot?
I'm not going to comment on a court case. That's up to the court. That's all I have to say.
Is he an insurrectionist? Is Trump an insurrectionist, sir?
Well, I think certainly it's self-evident. You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. And no question about it. None. Zero. And he seems to be doubling down on about everything. Anyway.
Kellyanne, and it seems that he is doubling down too. So let's just parse out what he said there.
Yes.
He said that there's no question that former President Trump was an insurrectionist. That was the phrasing that the reporter asked during that question. But he said, let the courts decide whether the 14th Amendment applies. That goes into our prior conversation. What say you about that commentary?
Well, then he's going to have to stand by whatever the United States Supreme Court decides. He just said, let the court decide. He can't just cherry pick, I meant the Colorado Supreme Court last night in a 4-3 ruling. He's going to have to, I think, eat and own and swallow perhaps a 9-0 unanimous decision by the Supreme Court. I don't think that's going to go according to party lines. They're not going to want to set that precedent. And by the way, can we all take a moment to pray for these justices? They're going to be under attack again.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly worry for their safety. These crazy people out there, these lunatical Biden voters, if there are any left, they find their way to the Supreme Court justices' homes, their kids' schools, their places of work, their places of worship. He should be talking about that. He should say there's no question, zero doubt, that the Supreme Court justices have a right to live peaceably and to remain secure. But when he says there's no question he was an insurrectionist, and Adam Schiff, the failing upward to run for the Senate now in California, said being held to account for inciting insurrection, finally. That's just not the evidence that's been presented in any court of law and that has led to charges for President Trump on those grounds, or that he's been convicted. So it is in doubt. And when you look at what I just think the Democrats wake up every morning, Emily, and they look at the calendar. The iPhone says January 6, 2021. The date never changes. And then they get an electric vehicle and go get an abortion. I just described the Democratic Party to you in 7 seconds. That's it. That's what I see. But it's always January 6th. And I wanted to put something out from the polling. Threats to democracy in the Emerson poll was number 2. It was actually ahead of health care and immigration after the economy and inflation. And the Democrats think they own the issue, threats to democracy. They don't own it. A lot of people are tired of being censored and shadow banned and put upon by the government and its ridiculous regulations and legislation and calling things like Inflation Reduction Act, which did no such thing. I think threats to democracy is going to increase as a focal point for Republican and center-right independent voters.
Harris, so much there. If you were like me or many Americans, I got a text yesterday that said, 1 down, 49 to go. I didn't reply. And that reflects a jubilation that is sort of being revealed in media amongst the president and others who are sort of celebrating this decision that many argue is legally rogue, as well as a lot of rogue things. What say you about the joy that seems to be putting forth by many about this decision against the landscape, as Kellyanne articulated, of so many who feel that their fair shot and their vote is now being displaced?
Well, I guess I'd be joyful, too, if I had no plan to beat the person across the aisle. I mean, if my candidate were so hamstrung that he first says on the tarmac just then, oh, this is an open case, I can't talk about it, and then walks over to make sure he's heard in front of a whole bank of microphones and calls the former president an insurrectionist. I mean, we ought to really, really be questioning his acuity now. And please separate it from 81, because I know some 100-year-old people who have it together far more than the president does. He's under a lot of work stress. I get it. But he handed them yet another gift. On the right, should they take it? And that is to say that you've got an entire establishment president down that has already decided a case for which the president, formerly Donald Trump, has not been charged. He has not been charged in the January 6, 2021 allegations. So let's see how it's going to shake out. But in the meantime, directly answering your question, how do they feel? Are they jubilant? Of course they are, because that's less work that they think they have to do. If the courts are going to be on their side until they get to the Supreme Court, we'll have to see what happens. The president's going to appeal. Leo Terrell said, do it now. Time's ticking.
Yes.
Get it into the
Yes.
Supreme Court's hands right away. But right now, the lower courts are doing the work of those far-left liberals who like to leave comments in your social media. And they're looking at the map, and they're seeing it get bigger of other states that are going to try to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. And I say to all of them, could be your guy, too. There are a lot of people in your party who don't like the fact they want ABB, anybody but Biden.
And Ian, how are we supposed to reconcile that the whole left is calling Trump that he's the biggest threat to democracy, they say, is this human, and yet it seems that this decision and more and all of these tactics are, as Jonathan Turley says, strikingly anti-democratic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Washington Post should change their tagline to "Democracy dies in darkness" to "Democracy dies in Denver," because that's what is happening here. But I also know that, when the court comes to a decision that you like, you're going to support the court. When the court comes to a decision you don't like Dobbs, like 360 Creative, like the Harvard case, they're the threat to democracy. They're the court that's all weird and doing all crazy stuff. It shows exactly what they are. It's not about principles. It's not about institutions. It's about power.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Look, all this was predictable, this reaction from Rachel Maddow, from Adam Schiff, from these extremes who think that this is the end of Donald Trump and that if this one holds, then all the rest are going to fall like dominoes. Rachel Maddow, again, has to know that the Supreme Court is going to overturn this. If they don't, we're all screwed, but they will. And so to go on the air and say, if the Supreme Court upholds this, then this gives every other state the opportunity to bring the same case. It's just ginning up this. Look, like you said, all of you, these are people who claim that democracy is on the ballot, that democracy is at stake. This ain't democracy when you've got appointed judges telling Coloradans who they can and can't vote for.
And it's like Eric Trump weighed in last night, I believe on Twitter, X or whatever, and he said something to the effect of, well, this just will inevitably raise Trump's polling by 5 points.
It probably
Doesn't it
will.
always?
Yeah.
After the first indictment, he went up 10 points. I mean, that is true. You said something, though, that I do want to speak to just real quickly. We have to have faith in America that people are not going to take it to extremes. So for all those people who are going to watch this, if it makes it to the U.S. Supreme Court, I do pray for the country.
Yes.
I do. And we are capable as a nation of letting it play out. I believe in it, all of us.
That's right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.